Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we are talking about crazy cars.
Crazy.
Aaron, you've owned some crazy cars in your life. What is the craziest car you've owned?
You've confused crazy with crappy. That's what you've done. Well, God, what's the worst car? I mean, the thing is, my cars all worked until they died, and there was no other owner. That was the end of the cars. I don't think we've ever sold a car to someone else that didn't drove it away. I take that back. One time, my first car was a Grand Am. It wasn't crazy at all, but I used it to deliver pizza until I blew the transmission out in it twice. Two times in that one.
Was it because you were downshifting too hard when you were dragging?
Well, deliver pizza is harsh on a car. A lot of stop.
Really? I wouldn't think that would be the
overheating.
case.
Oh, yeah. And then, so that was that. And then, eventually, I got a station wagon, but the old man borrowed it and then totaled it by rear-ending a tow truck in it. So I didn't have that one for too long. Then we hit the bad parts of life of cars. So the next car I bought a car off hose for $200. It was a Chevy Nova. The little Novas, not the cool looking ones, but the crappy 80s variety Novas. And I drove this thing forever and ever. In fact, that Nova was around. I mean, it drove for a long time. And then I picked up a Chevy Citation, which is a hatchback car. That thing was a pretty good car as well. It also wasn't wacky, but I think that's the one that I had the shoestring windshield wiper gimmick hooked up. That was pretty wacky.
Tell us about that.
Every car has a quirk. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, for example, my Jeep, the power windows all break.
And
I'm
you and Greg
begging for the
replaced those
crank.
out in the lot.
What's that?
You and Greg replaced those out in the lot.
Yeah, we replaced two of them, but then another one broke. Right, and I just gave up. So now the window is taped, and I've got a. So what do you do when the window won't stay up? I'll tell you what. You may ask yourself, because you know how it is with tape. The weather gets to it, and then the window falls in.
Right.
So what I like to do is get you a couple door stops and drive them in between the window and I guess that's wacky now that I think about it. So that's in my Jeep right now. I got a couple door stops.
You don't drive the Jeep though. Where's the current location of the Jeep?
Jeep's up at the river so Dad could use it if he needs it. So, but when I had the Citation, the windshield wiper motor went out, right? And it was in the middle of a rainstorm, right? I was boned. So I managed to pull under like an overpass. I pulled under it. I'm like, Jesus, how am I going to get home? It's like a driving rain, and I would go home. So I took my shoe off, and I pulled the shoestring out, and I tied it around the wiper. And then I noticed that if I pulled the string and the wiper went like that, then it would go down by itself. So the motor would go down but not up. And so I was like, hey, I can get home. So I just ran the string through the window and would just go in rhythm. So drive with one hand, that shtick. Well,
yeah, normal.
I didn't want to pay to get this thing fixed. So I did that for about 2 years, I think. And before my dad
it doesn't rain very often in West Virginia, so you're good.
I was legendary amongst my friends because they would see me coming and they would go like this. That was the thing. And so eventually my dad was like, that's pathetic. You're a lazy bum. And so we went to a junkyard and got the little motor for like, I don't know, $20 or whatever. And then we just went and changed it. But I did do that for years. I was proud of that too. That was a good fix.
It also gives you sort of an identity. People know who you are.
Yeah, I'm the cheap idiot who has a shoestring to run off his wipers.
Now,
is this crazy enough for you?
Was this the same car that you saw the woman in the graveyard?
Oh God, no! That was years. What is it with you and that?
Well,
My God!
I mean, this is the
You're
people
nuts.
want to know. I guarantee you, Edwin is wondering that same thing.
That's not car related.
Right
I
now.
want to hear. So, what about your crazy cars? You're driving nice highfalutin cars.
I've never had crazy cars. I've had actually, no, I take it back. I do have a crazy car story. I've told it several times, but I'll tell it again.
Keep it going.
So my very first car was a 1982 Volvo 240 DL. Sweden's finest, baby.
And what year
was
was
rear
that?
wheel. It was rear wheel drive, so it would not go in the snow at all. If there was
How old?
1 centimeter
How old
of
was the
toe.
car when you were driving it?
So I got the car in 1998.
And what year was it?
It was in 1982.
Yes, that's crazy. That's what I was wondering. Go ahead.
And so the wacky thing about, well, first of all, one of the wacky things about the car is it would not, the speedometer maxed out at 85. These days, you get a new car, the speedometer is like 220. It maxes out. This car, no.
I read a thing that the governor of Virginia, they're passing this law that if you violate the speed limit, they put this thing in your car that won't let you speed. They should screw that. They should just buy a bunch of those Volvos.
That's right.
And you have to drive this. This is as fast as you can go.
And like, if you would drive it faster than 55, it would start to just shake real bad.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
And so, but anyway, so you're doing what you do. I was King Dong at the high school, because when you can drive to school, you got a bunch of lackeys around you that can't drive to school.
Yeah.
They all want to ride home every single day. I know, because I was one of those lackeys most of my high school career. And so I was like, we always take this big group of girls home, right? Because you're like, yeah, I'm driving girls. That's right. I'm a big man.
Yeah.
And so we put Hat Chad in the trunk one time, right? And we put him in the trunk because the Volvo had a ski slit. Okay. Underneath in the back seat, you had an armrest that came down, and then behind the armrest there was a flap that led to the trunk, because that's where you put your skis. You feed your skis right on through.
Good idea.
And so we loaded up these girls. So I think it was me and Da Krabs MTG. I'm wearing a shirt today, actually. And we were in the front. We had these 3 girls in the back. And then all of a sudden, Chad reaches through the ski hole and grabs one of the girl's arms. She screams. Pandemonium ensues. It's hilarious. That is the craziest car story that I have. Also, Chad did not enjoy riding in the trunk of a car, weirdly enough. He said it was uncomfortable and dark and hot.
I put our good buddy Pat, TSI Pat, I stuck him in the trunk one time. I lived a block away from this arcade back when I lived in Kentucky. We were going to the arcade. The car was full, so I'm like, "Hey, Pat, just get in the back, And so he's like, "Yeah." So it was a citation. He got back there. Well, he didn't know it, but like I had a spare tire back there, tire iron, bunch of crap. So and I didn't know this at the time, but I thought it'd be funny to like hit all the speed bumps on the way over. So he's back there screaming and dying. I forgot about the tire iron, so I went to it. I went as fast as I could across these speed bumps. I got out of the car and. He was so mad. He's like, "I'm going to kill you. That tire iron hit me in the face." And so he was so dazed that when he opened the back hatch and jumped out, he fell flat on his face.
Oh, my God.
I rolled into the arcade and put a few credits on Virtua Fighter, brother. That's how I do it. He didn't do nothing. He didn't have the jack. He was also too hurt.
Now, I cannot imagine Pat in his current state going into the trunk, but Pat must have been a pretty svelte fellow back in the day. He's rolling around in the trunk.
He's a pretty big boy, even back then. But this was a hatch. This wasn't like a proper trunk.
Oh,
so
this wasn't like, okay, this wasn't a trunk. This is a hatch.
That's right.
Trunk.
That's
okay,
right.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, Aaron, speaking of a hatch trunk, let's talk about crazy cars.
Right on. Man, dig that solo, brother. Someone's tearing it up, music-wise. It's crazy cars, Bode. It's crazy that we're playing this today because we played the third, I think, one of these. What, about 7-8 years ago? We played Crazy Cars 3.
And the time has come. It's finally come. The day has arrived to talk about Crazy Cars 1.
This is one of those series where you have to play the third one, then you roll back for the good stuff.
That's right. It's like Double Dragon.
That's right. Crazy Cars. This was released in either 87 or 88, depending on who you ask. I'm guessing sometimes around Christmas time of 87 is my guess, but your mileage may vary. You know it's gold when Titus publishes your game. And lo, they came to pass. It's a Titus joint. Let's talk about some of their fine efforts, including the Blues Brothers game. Remember that one?
Mm-hmm. Based on the Game Boy version.
The Lambo American Challenge game.
We also played that.
Prehistoric, which we played that on at a couple of Amigathons. I actually like that game. Believe it
Yeah,
or
that's not bad.
Quick the Rabbit.
Not
Yeah.
familiar with that one.
And of course, you've got to have Titus the Fox. Well, you name it after Titus. And this would they didn't do the developing on that. That would be EH Productions. This is the only title credited to EH.
EH Productions. It's in the game.
It's like That's how I believe that's how you're supposed to say it. This was designed by Eric Kane, Caen. Kane. You want to help me with that one?
Yeah, it's the old Kane.
The old Kane. Let's go with that. This is the fella that was responsible for the Blues Brothers. He did the Crazy Cars series, the Fire and Forget. Remember that? The Lambo American Challenge, and a game we need to get to one of these days. Offshore Warrior. That sounds pretty cool.
If you want to talk about a game that describes my off-screen persona, that's it.
I thought that was that's the thing about Flack's current trip. He's the offshore warrior. The producer of this was Herv Kane, so I'm guessing there's a relation.
Family affair, yeah.
And Eric did the design and coding of this bad boy. The graphics on this thing, Oliver Corviole. Is the name.
Italian.
I've butchered. He did Fire and Forget and Galactic Conqueror. Very cool. If you were to purchase this back in the day, I noticed this. I thought this was unfair. This was going to run you, I saw the opening price for this thing, £24, 95p. Now, let's say you're going to buy this on another system.
Okay. This
came out on a lot of systems. Allow me to roll call here. You got your DOS, of course. You've got your Atari ST. Then you get down into your 8-bit zone. You got your C64, your ZX Spectrum, the MSX, the CPC. But hey, how about a couple oddball systems while you're at it? The Macintosh and the Thomson TO got a port of this.
Big in France.
The Thomson got a port. Titus. That's how they rolled. This was a one-disc OCS joint because this is, in fact, this is one of those games where you look at the manual and talk about the Amiga 1000. It's like, I'm home. And again, this game was released on all these different systems, but I noticed that the Amiga one was the most expensive of the bunch.
Well, I mean, I can explain why that is.
Okay.
Okay, the Amiga was the newest system at the time of its release.
Yeah.
And they felt like they could charge a premium because it was probably, I would say, the one they used the pictures for on the back of the box.
I looked at the back of the box. They actually had they did have enough wisdom to put multiple pictures of multiple systems back there.
That was a mistake.
They didn't put them all. Yeah, but come on, if you've got the Thomson or the ZX Spectrum, you're not expecting the Amiga screenshots to hold up. Come on, you can't be that dumb. But even the ST version was cheaper, like £5. So there's a big gap in there. And, of course, the cassette versions were considerably cheaper. This is, of course, a one-player affair and no frills, to say the least. Bo, I'm guessing – I never played this, and I'm guessing you hadn't played it.
No. I had Crazy Cars 3 was my only experience with the Crazy Cars series.
So – do you want to pretend you're booting this up the very first time? Because this shouldn't be too difficult for you to explain. Explain what this is like to start up and play.
Well, you get what appears to be a crack screen, but it's actually not. It's the actual game. So you get a title screen, and on the title screen you have a really nice looking picture of what looks like a Ferrari. And you're like, yeah, Crazy Cars. You've got a picture of two really excited looking jungle cats, drawn in a cartoon style. I believe that these are Titus the Fox.
Yeah, that's
jungle
cats.
A fox isn't a fox a cat?
No,
What is a fox?
It's more like a dog.
Is it? Are foxes more like dogs or cats?
Lynx are like cats. Foxes are more like dogs.
Are you? I don't know. Where do you base that knowledge from? Why is a fox more like a dog than a cat?
It's general knowledge. I mean,
doesn't a fox have whiskers?
Well, I don't know.
I think it does, and I don't think dogs have whiskers.
I think dogs can have whiskers. It is crazy car, so maybe it's a crazy fox on there too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So you get once you get past the title screen, you see a picture of the car that you're going to be driving, and it is a well realized picture of a Mercedes. This looks like a Mercedes S-Class. You know, it's funny, the S-Class. I don't know how much you know about cars just in general.
Oh man!
But the Mercedes S-Class was virtually unchanged for about 15 years. You can take an S-Class Mercedes from like 1980 to 1994, and it looks essentially the same.
Yeah.
This was during the golden age of Mercedes development, where I believe that the last year of this was 1994 or 1995, where they literally just told their engineers, do whatever you want. Price is no option. Don't worry about anything like market research or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just design the best car that you can. And that's what the S-Class Mercedes was for literally like more than a decade. So
if you're interested, this is according to what I've read. This Mercedes, and you may have mentioned this, but I'll mention it. It's the 560. The 560.
No. That's an S, not a 5.
Okay, the S60.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, actually, maybe it is a 5. I'm looking at the thing. Maybe it's the 560. Normally, Mercedes cars are not enumerated in that way. But anyway, I digress.
Someone in the chat will figure it out.
This is a beast of a car. It's got a V8. It's very, very heavy. It does a maximum speed of 160 miles an hour. But what makes this interesting, this is the car you start out with. This is not what you call like a race car. Nobody buys an S-Class Mercedes so they can take it to the track.
That's what I was thinking. I thought maybe I was just out of the loop. It's like your luxury auto. It's like, screw it. Let's go race. Yeah.
Now, the reason why I believe that they put this in here is because as you move through the game, you get faster and faster cars. So they didn't want to give you like a Ford Escort at the beginning. They wanted to give you something that was at least luxurious. So they start you out on an S-Class, and then they move you into actual real racing machines. So, but anyway, you get this again. It's a very well sort of drawn version in pixel art of a Mercedes. Then you've got the Amiga copper gradient background behind it, this full rainbow of colors. And then you're just dumped right into the race. There are no other options. You get to see where you are racing. I believe the first track is Florida.
Yep.
So it's like, welcome to Florida. And then you go, and then you're there. And that's basically how you were dumped into this game.
And, sometimes if you don't read the manual, you miss some options, like some keyboard shortcuts and whatnot. Not here. I looked at the manual. There are keyboard shortcuts for every other computer. On the Amiga, like if you hit the control button with the 2 Amiga buttons, you will exit the game. No kidding. That's control Amiga.
Amazing.
So yeah, I had the exact same thought. I thought to myself, man, why am I racing in this luxury automobile? But I don't know. Maybe they take them and put stickers and stuff on them and do road rallies. But this one just looks like you just drove it off the lot.
There are stickers. Like the AMG series and Mercedes, like they are like the racing drivetrain. But I think this is before this existed. This essentially looks like a car that you might see a doctor or a lawyer driving around Hurricane, West Virginia right now.
Yeah. It's a good looking vehicle.
Yeah.
By the way, I wrote down, so they list the top speeds for these cars, but they're wrong because when you drive in the car, for example, this one's going 257 miles an hour. That's as fast as it'll go. So what was it? Said 180 or that's a lie?
160, I think, which is pathetically low. I mean, my 2024 Subaru Outback can do 160. So.
Maybe that's miles per hour. I don't know.
Yeah, probably so.
So the first car you get is the Mercedes. And let's talk that you get new cars after you get through the whole circuit. Let's talk about the circuit here. So the first circuit you go on, a boat nailed it. This is called Challenge Florida. So, by the way, the box says you're racing from Florida to California, like cross country. Okay. And one of the things that is a standard on this game, if you'll notice if you're watching along, you're going down a path. It's the old double-colored path of road to simulate speed. And then you've got some road signs. And then way off in the background, you'll have different areas. You'll have different locales in the background. We'll talk about them. But all these roads have everything in common except that. They've got the multicolored road. They've got the little signs, and then they've got what's going on the side of the road. And what's going on the side of the road is chaos. It's like someone decided to build these roads right in the middle of some kind of like I don't know what you would. It's old
Well,
school DOS filler. I guess to be the
yeah,
best way to
yeah. I
put
mean,
it.
there are different ways to look at this. If you look at this in sort of a positive context, you can kind of squint and imagine like vegetation of various hues that has
Yeah.
not been cut recently.
The
Like,
blue. What's
yeah,
going on here?
well, yeah, obviously it's Kentucky, so you're driving through the bluegrass state,
Bam!
and
I'll give you that one.
and so, but I mean, like this this is contentious. This is going to be one of those things that people either are really turned off by or really stimulated by.
Well, yeah, I would
and
agree.
so like if you're choosing between this and like the Outrun esque like a million copies of the same sign over and over again, honestly, I don't think this is that much worse. What I pictured, when I was driving around England when I went a couple of years ago over to visit Neil, Pix would take me down these country roads, these one-lane country roads, and the hedges would be clipped so high that you'd be driving down and you wouldn't be able to see over the hedge.
Yeah.
And that's what I just pictured. I just pictured, okay, I'm driving down this road on the way to Cinderella's castle.
Yeah.
And the hedges, these multicolored hedges, are just cut really, really high.
These are those hedgerows in France I heard so much about during the Second World War. I didn't realize they were this tall. I've called this old DOS filler. That's what, to me, this is the kind of like garbage graphics you just see in areas where they can't afford to put real graphics because it's going to cause too much of a drag on the machine.
Yeah.
And so I'm like you. They've made some interesting choices, but you're not necessarily looking at the road. So you've got a set amount of time, I think it's 75 seconds, might be 70, to get from start to finish of each track. Okay, fair enough. The first track we mentioned, Challenge Florida. In the background, you can see like Disney World back there. You've got the Cinderella's castle and all the crap around it.
That part's cool. The whole thing. It's most of the time whenever you're driving in Florida, Cinderella's castle is always in view.
Yeah. And something else I like, these things get a WWF 1980s style graphic titles for the different stages.
Yeah.
So the second one is Challenge New York. Now, I don't know if you knew this, Bode, because a lot of people don't know that New York is just past a lot of flat cornfield. That's what, or wheat fields, according to this, anyway, because as you go to New York, it's a flat, long ride to the Statue of Liberty through loads and loads of what appear to be wheat fields, the billowing wheat fields of New York State, Boat. And New York's got a lot of, like, it looks like they've got a dock back there.
But yeah, you got to have your docks, that's where the mafia operates from.
So I guess so. You got Statue of Liberty directly beside the bridge. I guess it's the Brooklyn Bridge. There's the Twin Towers. So that dates the game somewhat. But at least they're giving it a shot.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, I will take this over just, generic nonsense any day of the week.
I cackled on a couple of these. I'm not going to lie. Here's my favorite coming up. The third stage. And I love this. This literally brought a tear to my eye, for real. Because it's called Challenge Space Shuttle. Mm-hmm. This one has you going through a bizarrely colored void. But in the background is the space shuttle, two of them actually.
Yeah.
There's you can see the Enterprise that's on top of the airplane back there on the one side, and then they've got another space shuttle that is ready to launch on the launch pad.
This is just like when you go on they call it the Space Coast. Deep and I drove down here about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And you go on the tour and you see, even though the space shuttle isn't operational anymore, they realize its attractiveness as a tourist destination. So they still keep all the crap around. You've still got the huge fuel tanks. You still got that big mover, the thing with the treads that they move the shuttle from.
Yeah.
All that stuff is still around. So yeah, this is a very nostalgic stage for me. This was my favorite stage just because of all the memories this thing cooked up.
I'll be honest with you. I was around I was alive and fully cognizant when they flew the Enterprise up on the plane. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking to myself, my God, it's the Enterprise.
Yeah.
and they've named it after Star Trek, and they've look at this thing. And when they launched the first space shuttle, I was like, man, I was into it. And this made me so sad that we have no space program now. It made me so.
Well, we do, Aaron. It's called the
No,
Force.
we
The
don't
Space
have it. We don't have a space. We don't have anything. We have to rely on private people to take care of our space. I hate it. In the old days, like I was so proud of this, and it's sad. But anyway, this is a cool. I mean, the stage is great, but the background garbage on this is unholy. Like what they're simulating here. Apparently, both sides of the roads went off the air at midnight. And that's what it looks like. It looks like TV static. That's what it looks like. Horrible. It's horrible looking. But still, seeing the space shuttle is a lot of fun. So that's your third stage. Let's go to the next stage. This is another of my favorites. The fourth stage is called Challenge Mountain. Now, what sets this aside from the other stages is that it's called Challenge Mountain, but it's completely flat in every conceivable way. There's no mountain. There's mountains in the background.
There's mountains in the background.
But you're not on a mountain. You might as well be in Nebraska or Iowa or somewhere. Flat as a pancake. But what did you think of the beautiful scenic vistas of this stage, Boat?
We went from the best to the worst. You could already if your fourth stage is Challenge Mountain, you are seriously bereft of ideas. Yes. Think about all of the places you could go in the world. Just name your thing after something. You could have gone Challenge. Now, I don't think anything about this specifies that it has to be in America. It's a weird thing because Team Titus the Fox, not an American developer. This is, of course, during the 80s when the UK had sort of a macabre fascination with America. But you could have gone anywhere. You could have made this a world circuit. You could have gone anywhere. Challenge Mountain, at least call it like Challenge Colorado or Challenge Rockies or anything like that.
I will say, we haven't touched on the little jumps in the road. So the road twists and turns as these roads do, but occasionally, for no good reason, you'll get some jumps in the road where they basically just like the cement just dips down.
Yeah,
and then
I've had that happen driving in West Virginia.
Oh yeah, but I mean, not nowhere this flat. I can tell you that right now. You talk about Challenge Mountain? Come up to my house back 10 years ago. Now that was a challenge. But the little dips send your beautiful, majestic, expensive sports car high in the air. What bothers me about these little jumps is that you think to yourself, well, this is fun. I'll just jump over the opponent. No, sir. If you touch that opponent in midair, you get kicked back. You don't get to jump over it. I thought that was annoying. But I do like the fact that you jump. That's kind of
well, I don't understand what the points of the jumps are. Like, there's no strategic advantage to either slow down so you don't jump as high or speed up so you jump higher. They're just sort of things that happen and then you move on.
I've got an opinion here.
Okay.
So this game is a lot like Test Drive used to do. When you speed up in this, if you just because in this you push forward on your joystick to speed up, right? If you let go of the joystick and there's nothing in front of you, you just go whatever speed you stop pushing forward at, okay? So, if you hit another car or the side of the road, you will lose speed. And when you hit these dips, it knocks speed off of however fast you were going. So if I've got the car maxed out at 257 and I hit one of these dips, you will always lose about 10, 15 miles an hour. So you have to speed back up.
Okay.
So that is one of the ramifications for hitting these. That's the only thing I can think of on that one, Bode. I'm grasping here, but I noticed this. It was true. By the way, just while we're talking about it, what did you think about the button does nothing? What did you think about the speed up, slow down gimmick here?
Well, I mean, we're talking 1987 on the Amiga. Yeah. The great minds in the software development houses had not yet even begun to think about button for acceleration. That was so it was sort of like asking for the space program from cavemen. And so I knew what to expect, and playing with a pad. This is not a game where you it didn't really bother me that much to play, to just have the accelerator down all the time by pressing forward. To be honest with you, I mean, this game has a lot of I wouldn't really call them control issues, but this is a game in which you can really drive in whatever style you find most comfortable and still do as well or as poorly as you would otherwise. This is not a game that requires an extreme amount of skill one way or the other.
Yeah.
And so if this was a game where you sort of twitch controls would have been more essential, I probably would have been more affected by the up for acceleration. But for right, as the game is now, it didn't bother me in the slightest, which is sort of a burial of the game itself.
Yeah, I understand. The next section here, these are the desolate, burned down wastelands of Challenge, Arizona. It's funny because in the background in Challenge, Arizona, you see a bunch of oil derricks.
No oil in Arizona. No,
I don't know if is there any oil out there? I don't even know. But I mean,
it's
mostly
more
Texas is and Oklahoma. That's where your oil comes from out west.
I think this game suffers from a severe lack of knowledge about the United States from a British developer.
Well, I don't. Are they British? I'm not even sure that.
It's freaking Titus, man. You think any American worth his salt would name his thing Titus and put a stupid fox on the cover?
Well, I mean,
give us some credit, man.
Listen, we've done a lot of dumb crap, Boat. I mean,
what are you talking about?
By the way, I'm giving us no credit. Just FYI. Have you read the papers? So, anyway, this is a very rusty white stage in the background. I guess aside from the oil derricks, there are something. Man, I don't even know. I thought maybe were like maces or something. I don't know what the heck's going on back there. They're like look like. I don't know. This is not an attractive level. Let's just go with that.
Well, I mean, I've been to Arizona. It's not an attractive state. I hate it there.
So, I mean, I've never been to Arizona. Is that where you got the heat poisoning boat or whatever?
Yeah. Well, I'll never forgive it.
You're burying it.
Yeah.
So the only cure for Arizona is which I like to call the Arkansas of the West is Challenge Malibu. Malibu, when you're you've hit the West Coast. Life is back. It's green. Off in the distance, you can see the sunny beaches. You can see the ocean, and you can see a lighthouse. It's lovely.
This is a very, I will say that I really like the way that these stages are laid out because, again, we say this almost every week. Give me variety in my game, and I'm happy. You start out and you are in a cityscape, or I'm sorry, you start out in Florida, then you go to a cityscape in New York. And then you go to the mountainous regions, wherever they are. Then you're in the Arizona desert. Then you're in the Malibu, Pacific Coast Highway. I love the way these stages are laid out. Every stage is different.
I agree. Well, I mean, I do like that. Remember that we played a game on the Coco? There was a driving game. And we were commenting about how there would the one area had an amusement park. They did the best they could with the limited graphics that the Coco could punch out. The one problem I have with this entire game, and I think this is why they did the controls the way they did. They're pointing this thing to 40 different computers. A lot of low-enders in here too, not to be insulting, but I mean, we're porting crap from the Amiga to the ZX, right? Now, I don't know how much of a port you do, but why use the button? Why anything? Just let's just make this simple.
Yeah.
They're not going to blow out. They're not going to shoot for the sky. Plus, this is 87-ish, so this means this game was in production in 87, early 87, maybe even late 86. The Amiga had been out that long. People were still figuring out what was going on. And I read some reviews of this era. They were fairly impressed with the graphics on this. Again, you got to look at this stuff with old eyes when you take it in because it's a different sort of game. Is this thing stand up against a modern racing game? God, no. But I mean, taking it for what it is, I thought they did a pretty decent job. I mean, it's as basic as a racing game can be. There's no doubt about that. But I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was. It was also a racing game that I didn't suck at. When you go all the way around the horn, which we just talked at every stage, you get to work your way up to the next car. I wish real life was like that. Be driving up, they just give you another car.
You haven't got there yet.
What? How long does it take? My God, I drive all the time. So the second car you earn is the Porsche 911, of course.
Yeah.
Max speed on this one, and this is in-game speed because I checked, 265. Then you get the Lamborghini Countach.
Countach, yeah.
And this one maxes out at 301 miles an hour. And
Mm-hmm.
then, I got to that one, but I didn't get to the fourth. Although I didn't have to play this 50 times to figure it out. I'll be honest with you. The last car, the Ferrari GTO, the max speed on that one is 303. Now it's funny because I was reading about the cheats in this game, and one of
Mm-hmm.
the cheats was if you got to 400 mile an hour, you could hit like a button on the keyboard and something would happen. But I don't know how you could conceivably get to 400 mile an hour on
Well,
this game.
I'm watching, I think we're using Hiponius's playthrough. And the game really, I mean, your speed is pegged at 303.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can go faster than that.
So, but so once you've finally taken care of that last car, then you've seen all this game has to offer at that point. The as you go back through the levels, nothing changes. You just go faster. We should mention that, of course, you're not alone on the racetrack. There are other sports cars, and guess what? They're the other cars that are available in the game. So they use the assets well. You're driving along, and here comes a Porsche, or here comes a Mercedes. You've got to get out of the way. The other drivers can be irritating. I don't think there was necessarily any sort of AI in these. What did you think about the actual racing itself, Boat?
Well, again, you've got to look at what year this is, what the competition is, and what they were trying to deliver. You've got this is post Outrun, okay? So they know what is possible, okay? And the chat has informed us that Titus is a French developer, okay? So you got these guys in France, right? I'm sure that they've seen Outrun and they're like, how can we bring an experience like this to the Amiga? Or to home computers, and what can we do to differentiate it? Okay, I don't really know that you could have done any better in that 87 88 time frame than what they've done here. You've given the player a chance to control 4 real world cars that are modeled pretty closely to their real world counterparts. Okay, in addition to that, you're giving them a chance to drive around the sites of the exotic United States, which is a lot more exotic back in the 80s than it is now. Okay, so that's another check mark in the game's favor. And then another one is that, unlike a lot of games that even came much later after this, that only gave you the same car that you're fighting against, something about like Lotus 2, where all of the other enemy cars are all the same car, you are going up against other cars that you will get later on in the game. So you are passing Mercedes, you're passing Lamborghinis, you're passing Ferraris, you're passing Porsches. That's cool. That's cool. So I believe that this game, the Crazy Cars, set out to achieve something that they accomplished. Okay. This is your basic time attack racing game where you've got a certain amount of time to cross the finish line. The game gives you that. You get a score based on the time that it takes you. You get bonus time when you cross the finish line. This is, you said this was a 25-pound game, Aaron?
Yeah.
Okay. Think about all the Coco games that were like $35, $39.99 that gave you, infinitesimal or exponentially less for your money. If I was buying this game for the Amiga 87 or 88, I would think this is money well spent. There is some replayability here. There is high score feature. There is you do get to move through the different cars and go faster and faster and faster. Aside from a 2-player option in this time period, would I rather play this than any of the test drive games? Heck to the yeah, 1,000%. Those games are slow and make you feel like you want to die. This game at least gives you a sense of speed. It lets you step behind the wheel of a real car, and it lets you experience, the great scenes of the United States of America. I don't know what else you would want out of a game like this from this time period.
Well, I like this game, and I agree with you with most of what you said. However, I'm not gonna, and I will say, does this run at a snappier rate than Test Drive? Yes, I'll give you that. But Test Drive's a better Test Drive 2, way better games.
Test Drive stinky.
No, they're not, and I'll tell you why. Aside from the fact that they've got a tons of scenarios, and they've also got the chase by the cop stuff, you're racing against another racer. It's got a lot more pizzazz. You've got the areas where you can pull into the gas station. So it's got a lot more graphical, interesting graphical features like sides of the mountains, hills. I think they do a better job with that stuff. With that said, I'm not here to bury Crazy Cars. I'm here to praise it because let's face facts. And this is a stupid thing to say, but I'm going to say it. Compare this to 50% of the driving games we played on the Amiga. This one's fun. That's the key. I have fun?
It's fun.
It's way better than any of the Outrun games. Outrun, Turbo, Outrun Europa. That's all suck.
I would take this over Supercars 1 too.
Eat
it, Amiga fans.
Oh, Supercar. Yeah, well, I don't know, but I think just for what this is, it's an easy, frillless, but it's frillless.
I wouldn't call it frillless at all. It's frill-full.
It doesn't have any frills at all. It's completely
It's got frills out the wazoo. Look at the freaking Statue of Liberty and Brooklyn Bridge. That's a frill.
That's not. That's
Look at the Porsche. You're driving a Porsche.
You expect
the game over screen features cars that are planted in their hoods in the ground.
By the way, I looked into that. It's funny you should mention that. That's the International Car Forest of Goldfield, Nevada.
I call that a mega frill.
And they did a good job because it looks like they touched up a digitized picture. So I thought that was quite nice. That they stuck that in there. I think I've got a frame of that on here. But overall, this is a nice early entry into the Amiga driving genre, and I found it for the most part a fun game. So I'm not going to bury it.
In 1987, if you brought your friends over that were playing on their Spectrums or their Amstrads, and you say, "Hey, check this out," they would think in their mind's eye that this game was the equivalent of Outrun.
Well, and by the way, Outrun only appeared in the arcades just a year or so before this was released. So definitely, there's no doubt that had an effect.
That's what I'm talking about.
You're absolutely right there. I did look. I was interested to see what the various contemporary magazines said about this. But before I get to them, let's talk about Lemon. People at Lemon hate this game. I mean, hate. They give this, even with my entry, your entry, and Pajaco's entry, because we're all getting in on it, and good for everybody, by the way, for putting their score in over at Lemon. Everyone should do that. But they only scored this a 3.6. That's with 75 reviews, too, so this is not enjoyed. Lore was slightly kinder to 63%. However, the magazines of the day were much kinder to this. Ace gave this a 690, which I like the 69%. AUI gave this 7 out of 10. Commodore User gave it a 7 out of 10. And the Games Machine gave this a 78%. So you're talking a C, or a little higher. And I think this, by today's standards, yes. But even today, this was an easy play. I sat down and played. I played it for, 2 or 3 hours, and I played it a little bit on and off during the week. Sat down and killed some time. It was fun. Did we get any Discord action, Bode, on this one?
We did. We got a couple reviews on the old Discord. We're going to start out here with, let's see here. We've got Pajaco. He says, on first impressions, this is a bit pants. While I'm not a huge fan, looking at what other similar driving games were on offer for the Amiga in 1988, there wasn't much. Its big sells a nicely drawn car sprite, but they're very static, bar one frame of turning animation, and no animated tires, so clearly they didn't have enough room on the floppy disk for much. Complete 7 samey tracks and get a new car to race them again. A new car means a sprite swap, as they didn't feel any different to control. The horizon backdrops are good, but the migrating grease and crack side made me wonder if my game was glitchy. It's not. Audio is one sound effect and it's the same engine noise regardless of vehicle. Gameplay-wise, it's playable, but not very exciting, and if I did play it back in the day, I don't remember. The roads are not wide enough, and with opponents flicking all over the place as you approach them, it's sometimes hard to judge where to position yourself to pass them. The game also suffers from a common early racing game problem in that you hit opponent cars and stop, but they can smash through you unhindered, and stopping you in the process. I made it to level 16 on my first try, and I reckon I could complete the game in a couple of evenings, but it's really not fun enough to want to. 5 out of 10. And Ricky DeRocher writes, "This makes the Amiga version of Outrun look like Lotus 2. These people are insane and wrong."
Well,
I don't
I
have
don't
any.
think it makes that
There's
look like
no
Lotus.
better way to say it than that. This game is not that bad. This game is better than most, and I don't know. Like makes the Amiga version of Outrun looks like Lotus 2. You should fire up the Amiga version of Outrun and play that before you make that
Yeah,
claim. Because
I
guess what?
agree.
We played it recently, and this game destroys it. It buries it deep beneath the earth.
I will say that game's got a much better intro. Remember the
Yeah,
crazy intro?
the Outrun. Yeah, the Outrun intro is better,
Gold.
and the title screen is better.
That title screen looks great, and I've got the box back here. It's great. And also this game was stupidly named. Let's talk about that real quick. Yeah, calling this Crazy Cars, that's a dumb name. It's not. They're not crazy at all. Nothing crazy happens in this game. They should have came up with a better name. I think they screwed themselves a little bit by the naming of this game. Something else I thought was wacky. You mentioned that when you turn the game on, you get sort of like almost like a demo scene sort of screen at the beginning of it. If you in between tracks when you're just sitting there getting ready to start, there's a scroll at the top where the author just thanks random people. He even thanks his girlfriend, like his mom.
It's very strange. I mean, like, okay, I get it. It's early days in the Amiga scene, but you should not have that at the beginning of every single stage. It's just it's poor. It's poor design to put that at the beginning of every single stage. You know, I would have liked to have seen a music option. It would have been great. I mean, I'm not expecting music and sound effects at this stage in the game, but it would have been nice to have just a little tune that would play. But overall, I mean, I don't. In Crazy Cars, you're right. It's a horrible name. They should have come up with like American Road Race Challenge 2000, something that describes what's going on in the game. Because you're right, the cars are not crazy. The cars are cool.
Yeah,
they could have called it Cool Cars.
They had Lamborghini American Challenge in their back pocket. Now you've got 4 cars here. You know, how about Elite Sports Car Challenge 2 or whatever, something. You know, I would like to have seen something. And there are some. You could tell this guy he was a talented programmer. This is written in C. I read this guy's a talented programmer, but they didn't do things like the fancy text. Like the Hall of Fame screen is horrible. It just looks as generic as they come. Like the text is all just like Amiga like text.
Yeah, but I mean, again, this is just it's an early game. It's just like when you look at like early Atari 8-bit stuff. Yeah. It's all got that sort of top of the screen, graphics mode where, and I mean, this doesn't look bad. It's not as if it's cordoned off. I mean, in a way it is, but it's hidden well. The scoring is insane. It's like 90s pinball scoring. Yeah. 8 billion points for starting your engine.
Get my score at the first level. It's like, how would they just, in a lot of old pinball games, they would just add a 1 or a 0 to the scoreboard. So you instantly had like 1,000,000 points. That's what this felt like. So I thought that was an odd choice. I do like the fact that in the scrolling credits, like I said, he thanks his girlfriend. He thanks the guy that wrote that tune that played, which I don't have that guy's. He wasn't listed among the music. So I only got his one name. He also thanks some of his buddies and some people that we don't know. So, like I said, it was very much like, I mean, for all we know, the guy that wrote this was just some demo scene guy from back in the day that was like, hey, that's just the way they do it, But I think this game reminds me of, like I said, of a maybe an older DOS title. I mean, just the way the screen and stuff, the road works and stuff. You can say it's an older title, but sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Yeah. Any final thoughts on this one, Boater?
Listen, if you're going to sort of sequester yourself in the early days of the Amiga, I think if you take the games that were released in, say, from 85 to 88, pretty much anything pre-release of the A500, you're going to realize that the software scape of the Amiga is a much different scene than you think it is.
Yeah.
And you should get down on your knees and thank the good Lord that Crazy Cars 1 exists, because you could do a lot worse.
Remember when I did that series where I looked at the stuff year by year? Like those first like 3 or 4 years, it's just they were anemic. You know, you were begging for something like this to come out. just to take this to the house here, I looked this up on eBay. I didn't find any versions of this for sale for the Amiga. Now, I know this was part of a package that was sold with Amiga 500s, I believe. So this is, a lot of people, this is one of the first games they ever played on the Amiga 500. So I don't know how many boxed copies are around, but I know they do exist. I saw someone sold one of the the secondary runs for $32. There's tons and tons of box versions of C64 if you're desperate to get one. You may have trouble finding this bad boy when you're looking for the Amiga. You may have to go out and search around. But overall, I enjoyed it, Butter. Let's get out of here.
Are you a sketchy tech? Do you have the right tools for the job? Have there been incidents? Next time, don't try to fix it yourself. Send your broken Amiga to Retro Rewind. Get a full diagnostic, a reasonable estimate, and the peace of mind knowing that your machine is in the hands of real technicians with decades of experience and cutting-edge repair equipment. Save 10% off your repair with the promo code Amigos10. Thank you to RetroRewind.ca for supporting this episode.
Amiga News.
We're still debating the game during the break. We can't stop. Get on, Boat.
All right, man. Listen, we got a couple news stories this week. The first one is that we are excited to talk about a game that you were actually given a personal invitation to take a look at. This is a new Kickstarter. Aaron, you were one of the biggest supporters of this Amiga Trumps game the first time around. Tell us about what's different in this second edition.
Somewhere within hand's reach, God knows where, I've got the actual first set of this. This is the Trumps, Amiga Trumps Power Play cards. And yes, we covered this the first time around, and the fellow doing these reached out to us again to mention that his Kickstarter started today. It just started at 6:00 p.m. in England, and he's already passed his total. So clearly, this thing got over like Rover. Yes, this is Trump's the card game. No affiliation with any political figures. And this new version is called Amiga Trumps Power Play, which is basically, this is a second set of Trumps. You can mix and match with your first set. Plus, this adds a couple power-up cards to the mix to spice up the game a little bit. These things are pretty inexpensive. Let's see what he's asking for him here. I believe I picked mine up. Yeah, right here, $20. Gets you all the cards and all the power play cards. And then if I as he was last time, I believe it's got a gimmick here where you can actually, you choose a character for the cards. You're in for about $40 for that. So that's went up a little bit since the last time. I included, I believe when I bought the first set of cards, we included, I know we did Top Banana was in there, KT. And I think we did the Caveman. I think that is the card I put in there. But I know for a fact that the Caveman's in this new set, so he must have kept him around. Surely this guy's not going to not put in KT. Right. That would be, of course, I've got her, but still, are you nuts? Free money, you know? So anyway, if you're interested in supporting this, it's on Kickstarter right now. All you got to do is look up Amiga Trumps Power Play. I can't tell you. It's funny, I haven't played the game. I've played Trumps in the past, but not with this deck. The cards are attractive. The graphics on them are fun. They're straight from the games, and they are quality cards. And they came, this guy delivered them exactly when he said he would, and they were exactly what they were said to be. So as far as I'm concerned, if you can get that kind of action on Kickstarter, you've got a winner. So this would be a good stocking stuffer, good thing for your Secret Santa, good thing as a giveaway, or just to keep for yourself. So if you are interested, head over to Kickstarter, and these are definitely going to get made. It's Amiga Trumps Power Play, Bode.
Now, Aaron, coming up next, we've got a YouTube video here. This is, we do the news every week, but the way that we do the news is sort of low rent and stinky. When you want real Amiga news, There's only one place to go, and that's Amiga Bill. He actually gets down and dirty into the news and talks to the people that matter.
He's also happy with the news, and it's joyous. Where
Right.
sometimes we bury stuff.
So this week he's got the one and only Dan Wood on. Dan Wood, probably the highest profile person in the entire Amiga YouTube scene. I think he's got something like 1 million subscribers on YouTube or something like that. And so he of course is also a full-time real DJ on the radio, on the real radio. And he's there talking about the Amiga news, but the biggest thing is that this news story about the full-sized Amiga. So if you're interested in getting a real Amiga fan and insider's viewpoint on things, check out this talk that Bill and Dan did together, and you can get sort of their viewpoint on this stuff. It's always nice to have somebody like Dan, who has been such an insider and such an important personality for so long in the Amiga scene, weigh in with the consummate interview genius that is Amiga Bill. So check that out.
Yeah, I haven't got to see this yet. In fact, I didn't know about it until I saw it pop up on the news. We've always, Dan's worked, both these guys, Dan and Bill, and throw Ravi into the mix. We've known these guys since Jump Street. Like I said, Dan and Ravi kicked their show off just about the same time as we kicked this one off. And of course, Bill was already well known by then. But the great guys. And this is the thing about the community. Like, there's so many really awesome people in it, and it's great. Dan's a real friendly guy, giving him his time. And, of course, Amiga Bill, he's the king dong for a reason. In terms of their coverage here, I'm actually interested to hear this. I want to see if they bury anybody over this. But, the new full-size Amiga, I'm excited for him. I know that a lot of people out there are excited for him. So hopefully they get released real soon, and they will. Oh, that reminds me, Bo, while I'm thinking about it. Remember last week we did a story where they Hyperion and the people over at the A1200 people were having some law issues, as you'll recall.
Yeah.
Remember that note we posted that Hyperion was like, "Hey, what's going on? Like, we've got a new guy running the show. Yada yada." I can't confirm this, but I had somebody tell me that basically the new guy is like relatives with the other guy that was running it. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly how much.
That it doesn't necessarily mean the A1200 Maxi is right around the corner.
I mean, the thing is, there's a buck to be made by somebody. So I think this will happen sooner than later. It's just how many hoops have to be trodden through to get it done. Maybe they're talking about it. I'm going to watch this interview and I'll come back with more next week.
Next up, Aaron, we've got Phantom Leap. This is a new update. This is another one of these platformer games that I think is really cool. There's a big update here. There are level 1 through 5 has been revised, and this is a game that works on any A500, so the system requirements are not high. And so if you're into playing a cool kind of puzzle platformer game that leans more on the platformer side, Phantom Leap, Aaron, this is just another one of these games that Indie Retro News Neil over there is talking about, and it looks really cool. I'm gonna have to check this one out.
This does look nice. The guy looks a little bit like the alien from Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, Marvin the Martian.
The Martian, yeah. But yeah, boy, gosh, we live in a great time period. I mean, look at the quality. I don't know how this game plays. I don't know anything about it, but just from looking at it, what an attractive looking game.
Yeah.
For your Amiga. I mean, it looks quite nice. It's nice little backgrounds, and it's amazing that just like a team of people or just one or two people have the ability now, thanks to their own ingenuity coupled with these new engines like the Scorpion engine that gives them the power to produce these games in a quicker pace. It's quite nice. It's quite lovely to look at, and I have a feeling it's going to be a winner. We'll probably cross paths with somewhere down the line, Boater.
Absolutely.
Hey, I've got a couple things that are off the beaten path here, Bo, to talk about before we move off the news here.
All right, man.
So we have batted it around, and we have finally set a date for the next International Computer Club. In fact, Bo, you pinned the sign-up sheet up today, so that makes it official. That's what I decided. That's what it was happening. It's gonna take place on April 26th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're not familiar with the International Computer Club, this is where myself and Boat and a cast of thousands all get together, just talk about what different projects. Sometimes people will have a video they show. Sometimes people will talk about software or hardware or book reviews or game room or workshop tours or front ends or anything. We've had 3D printing. We've had every sort of item. People just come in and give their speech. If you're interested in coming in and doing something, there's a sign-up sheet in the International Computer Club area on our Discord. And, of course, we will be streaming ICC live on both Twitch and YouTube on that date. So, please, if you're interested in joining us, sign up soon. And so we can have a good idea how many people are going to be doing it. And if you're going to do a project or something, you've got enough time to get it in, Bode.
Yeah.
I think that's all we got, Boder, on that one.
All right, Aaron. What we got coming up next week?
We don't know.
That's right. It's Amigos Choice next week. We know we've got Dragon Slayer coming up in 2 weeks. The Brent's going to be hosting that show. We're going to do a pick from the Boat and Aaron coming up next week. As always, if you want to support us, patreon.com/Amigos podcast. You get access to the best Discord server on the internet, plus a cool Christmas card and magnet every year. We'd love to have you come and hang out with us. Guys, thank you, as always, for listening. We will see you next week. And until then, adios.
Amigos is made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Patreon supporters help choose the games we play, receive exclusive magnets, and get access to the Amigos Retro Gaming Discord server. Visit patreon.com/Amigos podcast if you'd like to support the show and join our community.